Please allow me to thank the Armenian community in Cordoba, the Armenian Relief Society here, and of course the regional committee for allowing me to come to this place, to this beautiful city, and have the opportunity to share my film with you. Of course, I didn't have any problems making the film, and the film was not disrupted by the Turkish authorities or something like that. But the Turkish and the Azeri sides have been really influencing in such a way that they tried to stop the screening of the film in different places, especially in Europe. Screening has been screened in Istanbul.
Fue filmada en Estambul.
And what happened was that there was huge pressure on the film festival that had decided to screen the film.
Hubo mucha presión en el festival de cine que había decidido mostrar la película.
And but in the end, actually, well, I thank the festival director that really, struggled enough to keep the film on the agenda.
Finalmente el director luchó como para que se pueda mostrar la película y se mostró.
Yes and no.
Sí,
well,
no.
The thing is that my grandmother ended up in an orphanage, and what happened was that, like the other girls,
Mi abuela también en un orfanato, como la mayoría
were actually given a man to marry.
Y se les daba un
In
hombre
this
que
case,
se casaran.
boys who were in the orphanage themselves.
En este caso a los chicos que estaban también en el orfanato.
So of course there was this marriage was an arrangement.
Entonces, por supuesto, este casamiento era un arreglo.
And I'm sure those who organized it, and they were, the responsibility of the Armenian communities around the world in those days, they had good intentions.
Y las personas que organizaban esto obviamente que tenían buenas intenciones.
The idea was, of course, to help these girls find homes.
La idea era encontrarles o ayudarlas a construir nuevos hogares.
I want to remind you that all these girls were marked, and they had difficulty finding husbands or, persons who would take them as wives.
Quiero recordarles que estas chicas, estas mujeres estaban marcadas y les resultaba difícil.
And unfortunately, the Armenians have not been nice to these girls.
Y desafortunadamente los armenios no fueron buenos.
This is a dark page in our history.
Esta es una página oscura de nuestra historia.
We've been treating them so badly that some of these girls couldn't tolerate the pressure.
Hemos sido tan malos que algunas de estas chicas no pudieron tolerar la presión.
They couldn't live with all the demands they were putting on them.
No pudieron vivir con tantas demandas, tantos pedidos que se ponían sobre ellas.
And quite a lot of them actually returned to their captors.
Y muchas de ellas, de hecho, volvieron a sus captores.
That's tragedy for me. That's really tragedy. I mean, imagine you do everything in your life to escape from the person who's taken you, who's raped you, who's forced you into marriage.
Hiciste todo lo posible para escaparte de la persona que te violó.
And then you come to your own nation, to your own people.
Volves a tu pueblo, a tu propia nación.
And then these people treat you as if you were a traitor.
Y esta gente, tu gente, te trata como si fueras un traidor.
Of course, they went back to their captives. I mean, what would you do? At least they were accepted in those Turkish
Por lo menos eran aceptados en
whatever they were, slaves or whatever, wives number 5, 6, I don't know.
No importa que eran, si la esposa número 4, 5.
So my grandma was given a man, I would say.
Sí, mi abuela se casó.
And of course she was not happy. But my grandfather wasn't happy either, because they didn't choose it.
Era infeliz y mi abuelo también, porque no lo eligieron.
If anything has changed at all, I don't think my life has changed. I think my life I think if it has changed, it's
Si ha
changed in the
cambiado,
sense that the genocide is more and more even, deeper part of my identity.
es que el genocidio está más profundo en mi identidad.
Because you saw in the film, although I was treating the genocide theme in my films, in my other films,
Como vieron en las películas, por más que yo estaba tratando el tema del genocidio en mis otras películas,
but I was blind, or they
Estaba
had
ciega.
made me
o
blind.
me habían cegado,
I was taught to be
me
blind
enseñaron a ser ciega,
and not see what was just in front of
lo que
me
estaba al frente mío.
during the first 20 years of my life,
Durante los primeros 20 años de mi
when my
vida,
grandma was still alive.
en los que mi abuela todavía estaba en vida.
Well, I think I have learned not to be
Lo que
that
digo es que
self-confident,
he aprendido a no ser tan confiada,
to say that I know everything.
a decir que yo sé todo,
I'm best. I know everything about the genocide
en creer que sé todo sobre el genocidio.
because with this film I've learned that
Porque con esta
we
película
have so much to learn about the
aprendí que hay
genocide.
mucho para aprender
There's
sobre el
so many
genocidio.
things that we haven't even opened the box.
Hay muchas cosas que todavía no abrimos la caja.
And this film opens just a tiny, tiny taboo, breaks down a wall, a very small wall, fracture in the wall,
Esta película lo que hace es fracturar
the wall of silence. I
la
mean.
pared del silencio.
My grandma was about 80 something, 82 I think.
Alrededor de los 80. Alrededor de los 80.
Well, yes, of course, I did a lot of research
Sí, por
to make this
supuesto.
film. I
Investigué
actually
mucho para hacer
spent
esta película.
3 years to make this film.
Y pasé 3 años para hacer la película.
Coming back to the tattoos are a tradition, tattooing the women is a tradition that is practiced by Kurdish, Turkish and Arabic tribes.
Los tatuajes son una tradición de los turcos, kurdos y árabes.
And the tribes do it, they tattoo the women because they want, I won't say protect, but it's a way to identify the women of a certain tribe.
Las tribus tatúan a las mujeres porque de alguna manera como
So if
identifican a las mujeres de una determinada tribu.
If you were a Kurdish tribe, then you had different signs. If you were Turkish or Arabic, then you had different
Tenían
signs.
distintos símbolos, si eran kurdos, pertenecían a la tribu kurda, árabe o turca.
And why did they have this tradition? The tradition is built upon the fact that it was very common that women were kidnapped between these tribes, rivaling tribes.
La razón de esta costumbre es porque era muy común secuestrar a las mujeres de las diferentes tribus.
So you would you would tattoo your women so that you would mark them to identify them.
Entonces tatuaban a sus mujeres para poder identificar.
Well, I don't want to say that because I can't make promises if I'll make this film or that film. I never know what to put.
Ya.
Is a hot political potato
Es un tema candente, político,
which will infest the political life of Turkey in times to come and very soon, I think.
que va a afectar la vida política turca en poco tiempo.
The interesting thing in this is that the Turkish people or Kurdish people today, young men, young women,
hoy, jóvenes,
who are suddenly discovering that they have someone in their ancestry that was Armenian,
que de repente están descubriendo que tienen algún ancestro armenio,
astonishingly enough, is always a grandmother that is in Armenia.
sorprendentemente siempre es una abuela la que es armenia.
No boys, no grandfathers,
Ninguna
just
abuela,
grandmothers were
solo las
Armenians.
abuelas.
So this is a reflection, a modern reflection of, of these kidnapped girls.
Esta es un reflejo actual de estas mujeres que habían sido secuestradas.
Because not all of the girls, a very tiny fraction of these girls were rescued.
No todas las mujeres, las chicas, solamente una pequeña porción de mujeres fue salvada.
The majority, and we're talking about a number that is estimated today to 300,000 at that time.
La mayoría, y estamos hablando de 300.000 en ese momento,
were remained in Turkish households.
Quedaron en casas, en hogares turcos.
Of course, they gave birth to children and grandchildren.
Obviamente dieron luz a hijos y a nietos.
And in a way, or in certain ways, these women who, even when becoming Muslim,
cuando se convertían en musulmanas,
they have found ways of transmitting the knowledge, the genetic code of their ancestors to their
transmitieron su código genético a sus
You
generaciones.
know, a kind of memory, because everybody is remembering. My grandma was different. Why?
Porque todos se acuerdan. Mi abuela era diferente. ¿Por qué?
Because she made certain things in a different way.
Porque hacía determinadas cosas.
For example, when she was baking bread,
por ejemplo, cuando
she was
pan,
making the cross sign on the bread.
Hacía la cruz en el pan, en la masa.
Or when it was Easter time,
cuando llegaba la Pascua,
the girls who were, you know, they knew each other, or these were the crypto-Armenian girls, they went and visited each other and they were taking Easter cookies to each other, like we do.
Las chicas armenias que se conocían entre ellas, que eran armenias, se llevaban galletitas de Pascua, como hacemos nosotros.
So they found different ways of communicating the knowledge that there's an Armenian origin in these families.
De alguna manera encontraron la forma de transmitir que había algo armenio.
So what I find interesting today is that while I and quite many people in diaspora are just discovering the existence of the crypto-Armenians in Turkey, we too are looking into our ancestors and putting questions that we have never dared to ask, especially about these women.
Lo que le parece interesante es que estamos descubriendo cosas sobre estas mujeres armenias y que hay un montón de preguntas para hacer.
So we have just opened the Pandora box.
Acabamos de abrir la caja de Pandora.
Well, look, this film has been, has been out since November.
Esta película salió desde noviembre.
And the international premiere of this film actually took place in Amsterdam.
Y la premiere se hizo en Amsterdam.
International premiere.
Internacional.
And that was the most prestigious film festival in the world.
Ese es el festival de film más prestigioso del mundo.
And since then, it's been going around.
Y desde ese momento hay
voyage is still going on. I'm here. I'll be going on to different places. And yes,
so el viaje sigue y estoy acá y voy a seguir yendo a diferentes lugares, entonces sí.
Oh, that was a big question.
Una pregunta grande.
And I don't have a ready answer for that, I'm sorry to say.
Tengo la respuesta.
But it's true that during the last, let's say, 5 years,
pero es verdad que durante los últimos 5 años,
the Turkish society has been at least discussing a little more on this issue.
La sociedad turca ha estado discutiendo un poco más sobre el tema.
Certain intellectuals are, bringing up the issue.
Algunos intelectuales están hablando sobre
But
el tema.
Unfortunately, I'm not optimistic about it.
Pero desafortunadamente no
I
soy
think
muy optimista sobre el
this is
tema.
just a game for the galleries.
Es solamente un juego para mostrarlo.
Unfortunately, the intellectuals we like to hear them, like Akçam and all those people, are people who are in exile. They don't live in Turkey. Nobody's listening to them.
Desafortunadamente los intelectuales que queremos escuchar no viven ahí, están en exilio. Entonces,
Turkish government today is as resilient as the others.
El gobierno turco de este momento es tan resiliente como los
fighting with all their means to stop recognition.
Y luchan como pueden para evitar el reconocimiento.
Besides, they are only reusing the old clichés of why they shouldn't recognize the genocide.
Y aparte,
nothing is new since early on.
Usan los mismos clichés para justificar el por qué no reconocer el genocidio.
The last chapter of this denial process is that we have to understand their pain, they say.
El último capítulo de esta historia dice es que tenemos que entender su dolor.
Well,
Nosotros
like
tenemos
I
que
said,
entender
I
su
mean,
dolor.
it's just stupid. I mean,
Simplemente estúpido.
there's nothing to discuss with them.
No hay nada que discutir con ellos, no hay nada para discutir. Gracias por este punto de vista valioso del genocidio armenio desde la mujer. Tal vez ya es tan natural que no reparamos en esas faltas dentro de la historia. ¿Por qué eligió esta profesión, hacer cine? ¿Por qué estos temas?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think I was born a journalist. Early on, I was very interested in real journalistic work. Finding the truth has been something that has interested me all the time.
La búsqueda de la verdad ha sido algo que le ha interesado todo el tiempo.
So, I don't know, I don't have any specific answer, I'm sorry to say, but I make, look, of course, when I think a little about it, the person I am, how I was brought up, my identity, of course, they influence my choices.
Pero por supuesto, si me pongo a pensar, la forma en la que fui criada influencia mis opciones, mis elecciones.
I mean, I'm the result of an injustice. I'm the child of an injustice.
De una injusticia. Soy la hija de una injusticia.
The only thing I think I have to do is fight back injustice.
Lo único que creo que tengo que hacer es luchar contra la injusticia.
And all of my films are about that.
Y todas mis películas son sobre eso.
You know, all I know is in the film. I tell you, I don't know much more than
no sé mucho más que lo que ustedes ven.
Because she was a shell, a closed person.
Era una persona muy cerrada.
And the taboo that existed around her, not to talk about her tattoos, not to talk about why she was so strange.
El no hablar.
Her silence, our silence.
Silencio, nuestro silencio.
Our feelings of guilt, and especially the feeling of shame that has existed in the family about this.
Nuestro sentimiento de culpa y especialmente el sentimiento de
has made it almost impossible to, you know, scratch and find more.
Ha hecho prácticamente imposible buscar más, encontrar más.
She was silent, and like my Aunt Marie says, in the end, the only one she confided in was her own mom.
Ella no hablaba, estaba siempre en silencio, y la única persona con la que se abría y hablaba era con su mamá.
But I understand today.
Pero yo hoy entiendo
why she was what she was.
Porque ella era lo que era.
Well, look, I don't hate anybody. Hate.
No odia a nadie.
There are different opinions about this. We have the tendency to think, or we're taught to think that the Arabs were very helping.
Tenemos la tendencia, o se nos enseñó a pensar que los árabes fueron muy buenos.
And I say yes, of course they were helping us.
Y sí, yo digo sí, nos estaban ayudando.
Maybe if it weren't them,
Si no hubiera sido
all
por
of us
ellos,
would have been killed.
tal vez todos, nos hubieran matado a todos.
But I do not forgive them for abusing us.
Pero no los disculpo por haber abusado de
Because
nosotros.
they were abusing us, they were profiting from us. Them, the Turks, the Kurds, everybody was profiting from our poor women who were in the streets.
Pero porque ellos estaban sacando provecho de nosotros. Los kurdos, los turcos, los árabes, todos estaban sacando provecho de nuestras mujeres.
They were free to take any woman they wanted, and when they got tired of that woman, they were selling it to someone else.
Tenían la libertad de tomar la mujer que quisieran. Cuando se cansaban de esa mujer, la vendían.
Okay, I'm thankful they didn't kill them, but I will not forgive them for abusing us. That's what
Está
I'm
bien,
saying.
les agradezco no haberlas matado, pero no los voy a disculpar por haberlas abusado.
I will not forgive, I will not forget. That's
No
how I
voy a
feel.
perdonar, no me voy a olvidar,
But I don't hate them.
pero no los odio.
What was it? Well, I think I tell that in the film. I'm very interested in genocide. I always want to do films on genocide because I think genocide is the worst thing that has happened to humankind. And especially the fate of the woman was something that interested me. I wanted to tell their story because nobody else is telling it.
El genocidio es algo que siempre me ha llamado la atención y quería mostrar lo que le había pasado a las mujeres, porque no es algo que se diga.
Well, you can help it. Just talk about the film to everybody.
Simplemente hable